Elizabeth Pasquale, well on the way. And I had the really great pleasure a couple weeks ago to speak with Jim Kile, a beekeeper in Woodbourne, New York, who's been keeping bees for 75 years. And he told me some great things, the history of his life in New York, which I would never have imagined was New York. It seemed like the Wild West. And also about his time in the service, things I never read in the history books. So let me present to you Jim Kile. This was all dairy farms. And now there's not a cow or a horse on the whole road. My dad lived up higher in the hills, and there were rattlesnakes. The house was surrounded by pigs. That's right. There was the fence, the pigs, and then the house in the middle of the pigsty. And the reason for that was the pigs would kill the rattlesnakes. They would get them in their mouths and kill them. The pigs, you see, were immune to the snake bites. They had this thick layer of fat right under their skin, and that would protect them. Then my dad came down from the hill when he met my mother, and they lived in Woodbourne, where I was born. And I always loved to read. I remember being 7 years old and reading the phone book if there was nothing else around. I went to a one-room schoolhouse from the 1st to the 8th grade. And then we went to Liberty for high school, and I hated that. I hated getting in the school bus and traveling an hour. But I loved the Liberty Library. I read a book a day. That's how I got through school. I had the book under my desk, reading all day. My teacher said to me, "Boy, what am I going to do with you? You don't do anything in class, you don't do the homework, but you pass all the quizzes. You're probably the smartest one in the school. I can't fail you." And I said to him, "Well, sir, I hate this school. And when I'm 16, I'm going to quit. I'm just here because I have to." So then he understood, and he said he'd give me a 75. That way I would pass. So that's how I got through school. And then when I was 16, I quit. My only regret was my birthday is July 15th. So I couldn't get off the school bus and say, "Bye-bye, I'm never seeing you again." That was a great summer. I was making $32 a week, and that was top pay by then. I was driving a truck for the sawmill. Things were rationed, but because my boss had a government commission, we could get everything. We could get gasoline, tires, batteries, everything that was rationed. So I was living the high life. But then come August, I got my draft notice, and September I was in North Carolina in training camp. In October, they shipped us off. 10,000 men going to North China. You don't hear much about troops going to China. I was in the Marines. They had to get us over there fast, so they wanted us to go through the Panama Canal. It was the biggest ship ever went through the Panama Canal up till then. There was just an inch on either side. It was just amazing seeing them guide us through those locks. Then we were in North China. A Japanese invasion. It was a shame what those people suffered. The Japanese were tough. I saw things I'd like to forget. Then they got the news, and after a while they surrendered. It was the end of the war. But then there were the communists. So we were leaving, and the Chinese army was coming down to take our place, and you wouldn't have believed how they packed that train full of people, packed in those train cars, on the top of the train, just as many as would fit, sitting on the top of the train cars, standing between the cars. And it was the monsoon season. There was so much rain. And you don't think about it, but in that part of China, they grow corn. Not like our corn. Corn this big around, like trees, with the corn 24 feet up in the air, coming out the top, and just for miles, as far as the eye could see, up the mountains and down in the valleys. And the cornfields were flooded. We got on that same train and left as the Chinese came in. And we were inching through those cornfields, the train going really slow. The farmers were in rowboats going through the rows of the corn, and there was water a foot high in each of the train cars. And then the train stopped. And those farmers started shooting at us. They weren't farmers, they were the communists. And there was glass going everywhere. The glass of the windows on the train cars just breaking everywhere. But what they didn't know was we still had our rifles, and we fired back at them, and we got the best of them. Well, we didn't know, but the engineer knew. The communists had loosened the bolts on the rails. That's why he was going so slow. And then he would feel the rail wobble, and he would stop. And he had a crew on the train that went under the water and tightened the bolts back up. And then we'd inch along a little further to the next one. And that's how we left China, inching along. You don't hear about that in the history books. So I hope you've enjoyed this bit of history from Jim Kile. Have a great day. Bye.